Welcome to yet another edition of Indigenization Appreciation Hour. We have a live studio audience today, so you might hear some stuff in the background, voices of laughter and all. Please don't be bothered about it. Anyway, so let us begin today's session. We have a whole bunch of questions already. I'll go through them by and by. I wanted to make this an air power heavy edition, but let's see how it goes because people have all kinds of questions. Before we commence, I would be greatly, obliged if you could support our channel through in whichever form you deem fit. Please do subscribe. We need to grow our subscriber base. Please do contribute to DDR so that we can bring you more content, which of course will always be of an exclusive nature, and so on and so forth. You can use the super sticker button to contribute, or you can use our UPI ID, which we gave right at the beginning. We shared right at the beginning. You can use that as well. I'll share it again. It's basically SJDR367. Anyway, maybe I'll share it right at the end. You can contribute then. Okay, let's get to it then. Let's start with some of the questions. What's the first question we have today? It's Shadow Fury asking, any update on electromagnetic railgun project of DRDO? And China has hypersonic wind tunnel to test weapons up to Mark 30. So does India have a similar or near capable to it hypersonic wind tunnel? As far as the electromagnetic railgun project is concerned, well, ARD is working on it, as they have revealed publicly as well. Typically, any railgun project, you first work on the capacitor banks. I mean, what would it be? 50 to 100 megajoules maybe, so that you can throw a projectile, propel something at maybe 2000 meter per second, weighing 10 kgs or so. We don't know what they're doing exactly, but that's where most people start. So I don't know where they are precisely, but I know they're working on the railgun project and they probably have a 10-year horizon to make it work, or maybe less. And eventually, I guess they'll try to come up with something that is weaponizable, something that has the same maybe diameter as a tank gun or something. But work is going on. That's all that can be shared at the moment. The rest is, of course, up to DRDO. As far as hypersonic wind tunnels are concerned, a new hypersonic wind tunnel has been set up recently. Whether it can, where you can test, basically loads up to Mark 30 or not is a different matter. Let's not go into that. But there a new hypersonic test facility has been set up in Hyderabad. Okay, next question. We have Sabade Wo with, sir, has DRDO mastered RAM? By RAM, I'm assuming you mean radar absorbent material. Will we see use of RAM in LCA Mark II? Where will Mark II stand in comparison to Gripen in avionics and sensors? It's a good question. I think a fair degree of work has been done in India on RAM coatings and stuff like that, and I think it's become pretty mature now. Let's not go into specifics over there because of the nature of what it is. Whether we'll see it on Mark II or not, let's leave it to the designers. But then do remember that even the Mark I has composites covering 90% of its surface area. And, you often hear this, that composites account for 45% of the airframe weight of even the Mark I design. So I'm sure whatever radar signature management, radar cross-section management solutions are available may or may not be used for the LCA Mark II. Let's see what happens. It would be surprising if they're not used. Now, as far as this question of where does the Mark II stand in comparison to Gripen in avionics and sensors, it stands head to head, absolutely head to head. If you look at the kind of work that has been done on cockpit displays, multifunction displays, etc., it puts cockpit avionics of the Mark II will be very much at par with the Gripen NG. It may even be better depending on what is leveraged. So it's definitely not going to be worse. And as far as sensors are concerned, Mark II has it all as well. Mark II has a IRST. Mark II will have an ASA, which has matured now in the form of the Uttam ASA, the Indigenization, active electronically scanned array, fire control radar for fighters. It's called the Uttam, developed by LRDE. That's mature now, so that's going to be there on the Mark II. A particular version is going to be on the Mark II. So I think it stands head to head really with the Gripen NG, the Tejas Mark II. And as far as the Gripen C and D is concerned, the Tejas Mark II is going to be far superior. Okay, next question. Is Tejas Mark II delayed? Obviously, it is delayed. You've been hearing about prototype rollout forever, plate cutting and then prototype rollout. The prototype rollout is supposed to happen this year. Let's hope it happens. It's one of those Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav kind of, projects. So I hopefully the prototype will be rolled out, but more money has to be sanctioned. For the full prototyping has to be done, because for the full prototyping, which will involve the creation of 4 prototypes in what is generally considered FOC configuration. So it will be tested. So there won't be any IOC as far as the Tejas Mark II is concerned. But let's see what happens. Next question. Krishna Chaitanya Ramachandruni asks, how much indigenous content in LCA Tejas Mark I and how much more has been improvised in LCA Tejas Mark II export potential news? Okay, as far as value, in terms of value, it is certainly more than 50% in the Tejas Mark I, and maybe it might even be a little more in the case of the Tejas Mark I-A, of which 83 are going to be built. And I think it's going to be increased. As far as LRUs are concerned, almost 80% of the LRUs are going to be indigenous soon. Even for the Mark I. By LRU, I mean line replaceable unit, stuff that is consumed in day-to-day operations, and you need to, it's basically it'll be something that has to be replaced ever so often in a way. Ever so often is the relative term here, obviously. Next question, and the next part of the question was export potential news. I think it's pretty well known what the export potential is, in the sense that Malaysia was definitely interested, and a contra deal was being worked out, which was even revealed in the Hindustan Aeronautics annual report, in the latest Hindustan Aeronautics Limited annual report. It has been specifically mentioned there that such a deal was being worked out. Let's see what happens. But I don't think the Hurjet can really compete with the Tejas over there. I mean, that would be very surprising. Right, let's go to the next question. 007 YMM asks, any update on a potential Malaysian deal? I think I just answered that question. Next question is from Amrita Thakur. She asks, is the Taigei class submarine the best SSK in the world? Will Japan give India this submarine if India wanted to buy it? This is a good question actually. It probably is one of the better SSKs in the world. Probably no, it is one of the better SSKs in the world. Japan, TOT from Japan is a tall order. I mean, Japan couldn't even do it for Australia, if you remember. It was France which won that contract, and then France has lost it too because of AUKUS and all that. So, of course, it wasn't the Tegei which was on offer then, but, well, it was of that sort of predecessor to it. And if India wanted to buy it, yeah, maybe something made in Japan, maybe Japan might consider it, but of course, it'll come with any number of end user monitoring agreements and all kinds of things, if it at all happens. I am not particularly, I am not of the opinion that it's really a great prospect, at least at this point in time. Okay, Amrita Thakur has another question. She asks, will India be given single hull submarine building technology if India were to buy 6 Afghan class submarine? I don't know. These things do the rounds, but when it actually comes to working out a useful agreement with any of the other major powers, things are never so simple. Because there's always stuff to be looked at. But in my view, we don't have to look at this. As far as our SSN project is, we should take the Arihant as the baseline. At some point, I'll write a long piece on why I think so and why that should be done. Okay, let's go to the next question. Shobi Thomas asks, progress in Akash NG and QRSAM, likely induction status. As far as the QRSAM is concerned, development is complete. Okay, so user trials were on. Let's see where it goes. It should enter production sooner than later. Akash NG is in some kind of concurrent development come user trial mode. That too has to enter service within the next 2 years or so. Let's see what happens there. Okay, next question. Aditya Prakash asks, hi Saurav. With Russia cozying up to China, can Russia now stymie future sales, lease of Brahmos SSNs? Do we have the know-how to make the propulsion for the SSN on our own? Okay, so let's come to the second part of the question. We do have the know-how to make the propulsion for the SSN on our own. It depends on what kind of a reactor you will be comfortable with. If you are going to be comfortable with a reactor which is essentially a derivative of the current compact light water reactor you have on the Arihant, then it can be done much sooner. Right, much sooner. But if you now look at a much larger reactor, say 190 megawatt thermal output, then it will take much longer. And I don't think India has the luxury of time. So we should just go with what we already have, for which we don't really need the Russians that much anymore. If we adopted a glide path where we just built on what we've already built. Now there's this other question of Russia cozying up to China. Will it stymie? I don't think so. I think the Russians are too smart to do anything of this sort, and they will continue to compartmentalize their relationship with India and China. Brahmos is a very lucrative proposition for them as well. They can actually, Brahmos Corporation can sell to a much wider bunch of countries than the Russians, Brahmos Aerospace, in which the Russians have a 49.5% stake, actually has a much larger catchment area than, say, the Russians themselves have with their Yahoo derivatives, etc. So I think they are not going to be foolish in this regard, and they are going to continue to compartmentalize relations between their bilateral relations with India and of course China. Next question. Shekhar Singh asks, good evening, sir. Do we have any backup plan for GE engines in our Tejas, MWF or AMC if CATSA happens? There are contingency plans in place, but because they are contingency plans, let's not go into details at all. Next question. Anup Thakur, is small modular reactor the future of nuclear energy? A lot of people say this. Of course, you see, what at one time we used to also have only 220 megawatt Indian pressurized heavy water reactors. Why did he have that? Because our grids were just not large or stable enough to accommodate a 1000 megawatt reactor. But that has changed. But then there are many countries out there, many small countries, who of course need to mitigate, who also need carbon mitigation, and there's no better tool than nuclear energy for base load. That's my subjective opinion, obviously. They would prefer to have something like the small modular reactor, given the size of their grids, the nature of their grids, etc. Also, there are many small coal plants which are going to become defunct. And if you have a small modular reactor, you can just use that reactor as the nuclear steam supply unit and reuse as much of the conventional part, the turbine part of the old turbine island of the old coal plant as much as you can. Of course, this is easier said than done, but there are plans like this everywhere. Reuse of old machinery at old coal plant sites. And even if you don't reuse the machinery, even if you refurbish a lot of it or bring in new, you'll have something that can actually easily be sited over there, because you'll have water linkage, etc. But anyway, let's go on to defense topics. Then the next question, can India become a green hydrogen exporting superpower? This is a very long-winded matter. I'll not deal with this now. Maybe we'll do a power technology related IH at some point, but not now. Okay, John asks, please update on HAL, DBMRH, NMRH helicopter program. What is the status after reports of Navy rejecting it and asking for anti-submarine, anti-ship warfare on same helo? No, I think the Navy in fact joined the NMRH program. They did not reject it. They came on board. If they rejected it, that's news to me. Earlier it was just supposed to be an Air Force and, the Army project. But now I think the Navy may also be on board. And anti-submarine and anti-ship warfare on same helo, let's see. Obviously, but then this is a much bigger, it's a different class of chopper. So, whether they'll be able to fit all that in, of course, that's always a question. But NMRH is not a strategic partnership project or anything. So there's going to be no license production of NMRH. I think it's going to be a derivative of the IMRH only, which is definitely going to replace the Mi-17 at some point, the Mi-17s. Okay, so I have a bunch of questions from people who already asked it, so I'll move on to some other people before circling back. You have Puneet Pansari asking, does our indigenous attack helicopter not have ATGMs as of now? Which ATGMs can be integrated with them, domestic and foreign ones as well? Both domestic and foreign ones, such as the PAS-3 LR, can be integrated. They do have ATGMs. When you see them inducted properly, inducted and demonstrated as having been inducted, you will see them equipped with a certain ATGM. Let's not go into that right now. Okay, next question. Suraj Shinoy. As Dassault has a huge order book for Rafale, will that affect our bargaining chance for Rafale in MRFA? Yeah, it might actually. It might. But then, as I have said before, MRFA is for Dassault to lose actually. MRFA is Dassault's to lose, in my view, obviously. Not in the view of the government or some other official entity, but in my view. So let's see how it goes. But to my mind, Rafale should be the front runner. But then if the French think that, they don't need India, then that's a different matter altogether. Okay, which is exactly why we should go full steam ahead with LCA Mark II, Tejas Mark II that is now, because it's no longer an LCA. At 17.5 tons NTOW, you don't have an LCA anymore. Okay, we have a whole bunch of questions coming in. So let me just go in further into the questions here. Puneet Pansari asks, I've already answered this. Sorry for that. Suraj Shinoy have answered it as well. So we have Nitish Sadangi saying, hello Saurav, what's the delay in CDS appointment? Why is there no interim CDS appointed? Let's not get into this. You will see a CDS appointed soon. It won't be delayed interminably if that is what you are concerned about. Rahul Panwar. Why the Indian Army couldn't spend its capex last year, even though there are many platforms which need to be inducted, including indigenous ones? This is a very good question and should be posed to the Indian Army, especially its procurement wing. And the other thing is that, as I have said, Indian Army's procurement needs an overhaul. Of course, if I say this a little too vehemently, there might be some people who spend their life in the Indian Army who won't be happy, but it's the truth, I'm sorry to say. Let's go to the next question. Dabmaster69 asks, good evening, sir. Please share your opinion regarding IAF and Army facing trouble exhausting its capex. I think I've already answered that. IAF much less than the Army. IAF at least spent over 70%. Army managed barely 40%. Also, General M.M. Narawane has been very vocal against the L1 bidding system. Any action from MOD? Let the MOD decide whether they'll take any action on this or not. And let them announce it. It is not for me to say because, as I said, I am not in any official capacity. Okay, Foxfin. Sir, China tested a fractional orbital bombardment system and was much hyped by the West as another Sputnik movement. What do you think, and should India be worried? Do we have our alternative? See, they basically added multiple layers of uncertainty by testing a so-called hypersonic glide vehicle that was launched from an orbiting Forbes, an orbiting system. So the whole idea is to give even less time, because the whole idea behind HGVs and such things is to reduce the detection horizon basically for various systems, and also unpredictable trajectory, but initially to reduce the detection horizon. But in terms of Forbes, I can tell you one thing. Is it something that China can conceal, that what they have launched is a Forbes? Then it takes away a bit of the surprise element, doesn't it? Then the Forbes will be continuously tracked. So it remains to be seen what they are thinking. Do they think that adding another layer of complexity actually is better? As in, you have a Forbes which sort of can circumvent the main missile defenses, and then it launches a hypersonic glide vehicle which has a lower detection of, which has a different detection horizon and is also maneuverable in the end game. These are all questions to ponder over. Maybe I'll explore all this in an article. Can't really get into it right now because there are hundreds of other questions. Okay, Deepak Pandya. Sir, what is the status of critical missile systems like hemispherical resonator gyroscope, inertial measurement unit, and most importantly, HGCTE focal plane array? Okay, these are good questions. So as far as HRG is concerned, I think there's a DDR interview with Satish Reddy where he says that something is is basically ready for tactical applications or something. So you will see it's going to be put into production at the way where it is produced. Let's not get into that either. Okay, and the other is inertial measurement unit. Inertial measurement unit as in what? You can have any number, all kinds of inertial measurement units. Anyway, that's a different matter. And of course, a mercury cadmium telluride focal plane array, detector facility. Iska bhi number aayega, let's put it that way. I think you're going to see something like this being made under the PLI scheme for semiconductors eventually. But I'll tell you one thing. High quality and high accuracy FPAs are not being denied to India anymore and have not been for a while. So that is not really currently not a concern. But obviously, ideally, it is better that you make your own, especially for space-based sensors. Okay. Venom says, nice badge on your arm. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. You guys can take a closer look at it. I got this in Manali actually from some Tibetans over 11 years ago. They sewed it onto this old jacket of mine. Right. Let's go to the next question. Will FUFA be powered by Kaveri engine? Let's have DRDO talk more about FUFA before we speculate about what will be powering it. Right, so let's not get into that here. Demallo Das says, do you think CKD kit assembly of Rafales in India by Dassault after complete takeover of DRAL a faster way? Obviously, it will be a faster way, but is it the best way? What will we gain from it anyway? If CKD manufacture of Rafale in India, we'll gain nothing from it. I for one won't be very happy with this. Yes, but it will be faster, but it doesn't mean anything really. Then might as well do direct import. Some people in India will get to know how to screw on the Rafale properly. That's all they'll really get to know. And maybe some test they'll get to know on the test and check outside. Is that really worth it? I don't think so. Bodnali Chatterjee asks, in which technology are we ahead of Russia and China? Well, Russia we are ahead of in a few areas now, thanks to our overall work. But in terms of, if you take in terms of missile technology, I would say we are Russia, China, and America at par. We are maybe 2-3 years behind, not more than that. Okay. As far as AIP technology is concerned, we are ahead of Russia. I don't think China's Sterling engine technology is that great either. Right. Now, as far as computing is concerned, China is obviously ahead of India and Russia. And what else is there? Materials. In many areas in metallurgy, Russia is still ahead of India. China is also behind Russia in metallurgy. Although many people don't realize this. But there are in other branches of material science, India is actually quite good. In composites and all, India is probably better than Russia. Maybe even better than China in some cases. But then China, has the back end already integrated. So they don't have to depend on fiber import, this, that, etc. Again, a very long topic. But in terms of missile technology, I would say India is 2 to 3 years behind Russia and China. Maybe 4 or 5 years behind America, despite all the American crying that goes on about, how China has stolen a march on hypersonics and all. It's all right. America is still ahead in the front end business, in the terminal seeker business, which matters the most, and in also other areas. So let's not go in there. It's a long discussion. Okay, we have a question from India. India's interest in MD 650 heli. Can't we build one? Yeah, well, we can. You see, this was a fear of mine. I just hope that this Armed Forces Special Operations Division did not. I had hoped that it would become something that works much more closely with DRDO et al. And develops tailor-made solutions rather than looking for stuff abroad. But then if they say it's an urgent operational requirement, then who are we to say anything after all? We are, civilians ultimately don't decide all this. Okay, so next question. Dhruv Raman Singh. Thank you for making this a regular series. I'm contributing on UPI. You do a very nice and pragmatic defense review. Thank you, Dhruv Raman Singh. I am extremely happy that you've chosen to support us. Please do keep supporting us. And please do also encourage others to support us. Please do subscribe to our channel so that we have more viewers, we reach more people, we can get the message of indigenization across to more people, so on and so forth. Right, so next question is from Ritik Juyal. Sir, can we see Arjun Mark II or LNT FICV at Defense Expo? Not Arjun Mark II. I think you'll see the Arjun Mark I-A in these live demonstrations. Maybe you'll see some stuff related to improvements being done to the, the chassis of the Arjun Mark I-A and all that. LNT FICV, maybe you will, I don't know. That's up to LNT, obviously. Okay. So we have Ashish Har saying that which aircraft in IF service has the lowest RCS, Rafale or Tejas Mark I? Let's not get into this. Okay, we have another question here from Ornop Chatterjee, which says, are you sure IF want Mark II Tejas and HAL will be able to produce it from 2027? Yes, I think they will be able to, provided you move forward on it quickly. I think the IF does want this, the Tejas Mark II. It is the Indian Air Force which ultimately cleared the CDR. So I do think they want it. They have said it also on multiple occasions. There was even a letter that was sent to DRDO headquarters from a former IAF chief committing to certain numbers. So I think they do want it. Next question. Vinay DRN. DRDO pump jet propulsion ka kya progress hai? There's no new word on this right now, but I think they were working on something similar on a pump jet propulsion system. You'll get to hear of it when they choose to share it. Tarun Sharma, what happened to all the ATGMs like Amog, MP ATGM, Nag, Helena, etc.? No orders for them. Again, this is a question best posed to those who place orders. But of course, the development of most of this is complete. Nag was supposed to be productionized by now. The one based on the Namika carrier and all that. MP ATGM is in user trials. Helena has basically completed user trials, I think. Amog, of course, is a BDL system. Amog 3 is the one that they are pushing for. Let's see what happens to it. Okay, we have another question here from Foxfin. Pakistan J-10 threat, hype or reality? This is a good question, but you see the engine that the J-10 will come with, the Pakistani version, is not very reliable even now. So I don't know what the availability rates of the fighter will be. As far as avionics is concerned, I still am not very clear how stable Chinese avionics are. How stable Chinese AESA radar technology is. I'm not totally clear about it, but then they do have a much bigger electronics industry than us, etc. and all that. Now, whether they give a D-rated system to Pakistan or not, that is also a question. But most of it is hype. It is basically Pakistan, the Pakistani Air Force, trying to pretend that, they have it all covered. But like I have said on Twitter, if there is a next round, it won't be so simple as February 27 or 26. Okay, next question. We have a question from Jeffrey Royan. Thank you for this live stream. I'm happy that you like it. We have started to hear some rumors of an American light helicopter. I think I've already answered that. Didn't we decide to go ahead with the LUH when we killed the Kamov deal? Yeah, LUH will happen. This is only for the Special Forces Division. So it will be a limited order. I don't think it will become the standard LUH. That is not going to happen. Okay, Fusion Fame. With tank is like a sitting duck in future warfare because the tremendous development in the field of guidance system and in future most of the countries are advanced cheaper science. Obviously, this whole issue of whether tanks are obsolete or not comes up ever so often. Tanks are not obsolete. They will always have a role and a place, but their role and place is changing. And also tank protection technologies have to be now advanced much more quickly. You'll also have to have a sort of a netted kind of environment in terms of tank production, where it's not just the active protection system of one tank dealing with a threat launched towards it. It might be a netted threat mitigation system. The contours of this will emerge in the course of this decade, but that's again a longer discussion. Okay, let's go into something else now. And of course, tanks will have to work very closely with in situ electronic warfare systems that are in situ with armored formations. Right, Advait AJ. Sir, tell us about AD FUFA program. There's nothing to tell at this time really, so I'll have to skip this. It's Rocket Science asks, what is your opinion about NASAM SR? Do you think it will be like the naval strike missile? Okay, so NASA MASAR is basically a DRDO program for a naval anti-ship missile short range, and there is one for medium range as well, NASA MR. Yeah, I think in terms of seeker tech and everything, will be pretty contemporary. So there's nothing to worry about over there. Obviously, we need something for our helos, for smaller warships, etc. And this is the way to go. There's no point in importing Seabreaker, Gabriel 6 or something of that sort. Might as well use when we crossed the critical threshold in terms of missile technology and production a long time ago. So missile import makes no sense. The missile autonomy mission of DRDO makes a lot more sense. Okay, we have another question. Now we go to the next question basically. So in the long run, how much ballistic missile will we need in our rocket force? Can't give you any numbers. You can read my article on India's coming rocket force, which I wrote for the Diplomat. That'll give you an idea of the kind of things that are being planned, etc., etc. But we can't go into numbers. Path update on Tejas Mark II, an LCH attack helicopter, and ULH artillery of Kalyani. Jai Hind. Jai Hind to you as well. And update on Tejas Mark II, I've already answered that question earlier in the program. LCH attack helicopter, as Hal has been saying again and again, they began production even before they had the order. So a number of units are actually ready to be transferred to the user. But the sort of tender, the order has not come through yet, but it will come through. And I think you will see almost 200 light combat helicopters in service with the Indian military over the course of the next 15 years or so. Dhruv Raman Singh asks, in your assessment, should we note give me a second please. Should we note the increase in the rate of production of Tejas no matter the cost and roll out the MK2 ASAP by spending more? Pakistan is increasing the ASAP capable fighters. Yeah, we should, obviously, see, if you invest in a greater number of the same airframe, you will be able to bring down per unit costs. And we have to plow forward with the Mark II. You see, that is how you de-risk yourself. Mark II is the ultimate de-risking strategy. There's very little risk involved in the Tejas Mark II. I think I'll write an article putting my point of view across. We have to move forward with Tejas Mark II quickly. Okay, we have a question from Atul Sharma. Tejas Mark II, no orders being talked about. I think I've already answered this question a few times. Logical song. When are we likely to see owner license scale model kits of homegrown weapon systems like LCA, IC 1, 2, 3, Arjun, etc.? Maybe sooner than later. This is something that, of course, can be taken up with DRDO, but I don't know if I can answer this question really. Okay. Weber Munial says, sir, I hope that you've been doing well. Well, yes, I've been doing well. But of course, being the emotional creature that I am, I get pained by some people from time to time. But then that's just me. You need not concern yourself about it. Okay, Shardud Dhande says, exactly how much of T-90 Bhishma is made in India? Can we build one from scratch without any imports from Russia? Why was a 120mm board chosen for Arjun when we already have so many 125mm ammo and tanks? Okay, last question first. See, 120mm was chosen so that we could use NATO grade ammunition because that was the standardized board for all the late model NATO MBTs. Now, Arjun was also like the MBT-70 project in many ways. I mean, its design and all is similar to the Leopard 1 platform in some ways. So the concepts are similar, the outlook is similar, the approach is similar. How much of the T-90 Bhishma is made in India? The former OFB and now HVF, basically Heavy Vehicles Factory, claims over 70%. This they have said in parliamentary committee reports and all. Can we build one from scratch? I think we can because the T-72 has been fully indigenized. There were a lot of problems with the gun chemistry, modified gun chemistry for the 125mm gun, but that was licked, so to speak, at the end of it. But I think it can be done. I think even a full T-90 can be built in India now, because the engine has been indigenized. V2, S92 engine has been indigenized now. Okay, Gabbar RF. Was hearing a talk by an expert lamenting we reinvent the wheel for pipes and bolts and would like to be part of someone else's aircraft development program. How much IP is important to this world? It is everything really. You see, because it's only when you hold the systems level IP that you actually control the system. Every system today is a complex flying or moving platform, that is any platform, is a complex flying or moving network supercomputer. You need to hold the system level IP, and it is when you hold the system level IP, when you understand the design, know the design, can tweak the design, it is then that you can easily increase the indigenous content also. Of course, there will always be some systems that you would not like to import at all. But there are many things which are already commoditized. So even in terms of indigenous content, it has to be seen what it is that you want to actually indigenize. Okay, then we have Atul Sharma is asking a major question. What's the actual range of Brahmos? I think this has been done to death. 450 kilometers, I think, is the range that they talk about now for the baseline Brahmos. And systems which can go up to 800 kilometers. If you increase the size of the fuel tank, etc., the engine, etc., might even go up to 1500 according to some people. Again, that's a separate issue altogether. That's for Brahmos to look into. Okay, we have Rahul Tiwari asking, is buying Rafale now an option considering India assembly line is getting ready? Again, I've discussed this before. Mere CKD production means nothing, CKD assembly. There has to be proper license production with deep transfer of technology to an Indian player. We can't just say, then it'll just be a case of, somebody using slightly, and even there, you see the labor, while some of the Indian labor will get trained, they will have to bring in a lot of labor from France itself. Now, you can argue that, there'll be learnings, there'll be diffusion with French and Indian workers working side by side, maybe, but is it really worth the trouble? I don't think so. Not in this case. There are other things where this might work, as I have said also before. Okay, then next question is Rahul Tiwari is asking. No, I've answered that question. Suryansh Chaudhary asks, how's our ASAT tech in comparison to West, specifically Uttam and Navy's under development data? It's all Uttam really as far as fire control data for fighters is concerned. I think it's pretty mature. It's not that behind the West in reality. It's caught up quite fast, remarkably well actually. Okay, Fusion Fame. And it's ours, so we have control over the modes. We know what can be done. We have a lot of, again, the question of systems level IP. It really matters when you're talking about something like a radar, especially an ASA radar. Okay, we have another question here from, we have Arpit Jain asking, so what are your views on whether a single engine jet can power its electronics like double engine jets or can use high power electronics like big radar multiple type? Once again, I just lost that question. Okay, let me repeat. Arpit Jain. So, what are your views on whether a single engine jet can power its electronics like double engine jets or can use high power electronics like big radar, multiple type of MOS, etc.? Okay, this is a question. Of course, I'm not an aerospace engineer and not an energy management specialist or power management specialist for fighter aircraft. Yeah, but it depends. A twin engine jet will have a different form and fit and will be maybe larger. There'll be airframe weight. There are trade-offs involved over here, as I can see. It's not a simple cut and dry answer that just because you have two engines, it means that you have more power available. You do have more power available, obviously, but you'll have to look at what else. What are the sacrifices you made? Because nothing comes for free. Now, if you can keep something at the size of the Tejas and you add two engines, but what would you do that for anyway? Why would you add the weight of an extra engine and complexity? Again, I'm not a design engineer, energy management specialist for aircraft, aerospace engineer, etc. So I might not be the best person to answer this or ask this question. It can be explored through secondary research. We can have some, sessions on such issues. We can have a bunch of engineers come over and talk about this as well. But that's for the future, and that also depends on how much support you show for this channel. Because we can't leave everything and just do this, right? So, okay, next question. Was HSTDV recently tested? Yeah, the tests have been announced. Whatever has been announced has been announced. Let's keep it at that. MK2. What's the future of Indian submarines and timeline for new submarines? This is a very good question, actually. What is the future? This is a lot hinges upon this. Look, NSTL, that is DRDO, had come up with an SSK design, okay, a diesel electric submarine design. But Navy's DND was not too keen on this, probably, right? I think I've had a few exchanges with Admiral Arun Prakash on Twitter about something on similar lines, etc. So they did come up with it, but the Navy did not think that NSTL probably had the pedigree to go forward with it. But now, given what is happening, in terms of Russia pulling out and even Korea not being too keen and basically pulling out from the Project 75I tender, I think you might just see the indigenous option being explored seriously now. As far as SSNs are concerned, I've already discussed the matter. I'll write an article on what I think should be the course of action. Okay, we have more questions coming in now. Okay, we just had a bunch of questions coming in. We have a question coming in here. Okay, right. I think I had to scroll down quite a bit. Let me just scroll up a little bit. Okay, we have. Oh God, there's a whole bunch of questions. Lost it. Okay, my God, there are thousands of questions right here. Okay, let me start somewhere. Okay, I found it finally. Right. So we have Sanket Shah asks, UAE went for South Korean SAM. India couldn't pitch Akash NG. Some report says UAE wants more SAM, so Akash NG, QR SAM, XR SAM still in picture. I think the way things are going with the UAE, you will see some export to them on the air defense side sooner than later. Let's keep it at that. Let's go to the next question. Admiral Kenobi, how large is the hangar bay of the Vikrant, indigenous one? What is the area of the hangar bay? Cannot give you the exact figure. Compared to similar size, how many MiG-29 can it house? It's not going to how many it can house in a hangar, but of course it can house, in overall the IAC-1 can accommodate over 20 MiG-29s. Okay, let's put it that way. And I did, I had gone on an official visit to CSL many years ago when they had taken me to the IAC-1, which was still under construction. And I had seen the IAC-1 under construction from inside. So I have actually seen that hangar bay. But I'm not going to tell you how large it is. Next question. Mr. Dead asks, what happened to Desi LFRJ engine? It's under development, 350mm. He's basically referring to the liquid fuel ramjet engine. And a 350mm engine diameter engine was under development at DRDL. It'll power the Star, the supersonic target, basically. That system it will power. I think Satish Reddy even said this in an interview to DDR at some point. Okay, Raj Reddy asks, any update on our thorium reactors? When can we expect one of those to come online? Unfortunately, there is no update as of now. Okay, India is pursuing 4 different paths towards using thorium. One is, of course, the use of heavy water reactor technology, hybrid sort of, because the coolant will be light water in it, AHWR kind of technology. Another is accelerator-driven subcritical system technology. Another is the typical molten salt reactor path. And there's a 4th path as well in the terms of pebble bed reactors, high temperature reactors and stuff like that. Nothing has been scaled up to the industrial level yet. AHWR has not seen ground break or anything. When it happens, you'll know. Okay, we have a question from Ucho Mukherjee asks, is there a chance to collaborate with Japan on joint development of a low bypass fighter engine based on XF9? No, I don't think so. I don't think Japan is going to collaborate with India on a low bypass turbofan engine like the XF9. And there are American considerations there as well, by the way. America will not want you to team up with Japan when it is selling the F414 to you and then the F404 before that. We have a question from Last Minute Programmer. It's a question about the MD500, whether it's really coming or not. Really coming, nobody can say. It's probably been discussed, but I have answered that part already. Some pass-away news like THAAD and NASAMS. Yeah, THAAD and NASAMS is history. That's never going to happen. So you can be rest assured that you've actually managed to avoid that. Okay, Aditya Patilas, are we going with grip and engine MRFA? You asked the Air Force this question, not me. Next question is Manish Panwar, Astra Mark II. It's under some kind of development come user trials, according to DRDO, what they told me. So you're going to see this in service sooner than later, Astra Mark II. I think it will be a pretty decent system. Okay, we have a question from SPK who's asking, given the history of FICV cancellation, is the current program going to be finally implemented? Also, why does the same pattern repeat itself across most new acquisitions? Now, that is a book. The answer to that question is a book in itself. So I'll not go into it. If you do remember the history, it used to be, all this was supposed to be done under Make 1, which had all kinds of tracks where the government would put a lot of money upfront for prototype development. But that just went out of the window, and all of this will now be under either SP or Make 2 and stuff like that. But FICV will happen. It will be a domestic program only. Okay, we have DDR will come out with long, pieces on the FICV program, NGMBT program, FRCV, and all that. Shabani Adhikari asks, what is Nirbhay status? Nirbhay, I think it was even reported that the Nirbhay had entered service. I think the Hindustan Times reported it. I don't see why we should doubt the Hindustan Times just like that. So as I've said in other things, the Nirbhay should do all right with the turbojet engine, the Russian turbojet engine. I think Janes had reported that it's powered by the TRD DDMT. I mean, that's a turbofan actually, but I think let's go with what Hindustan Times is saying here. But then that's just my view. That's not the view of the military or the official view or anything of that sort. Please be clear. Shashanka Kashyap asking, in case of future requirements, why Army and IF always seem to be confused, whereas IN seems to have a clear idea on what they want. This is another topic. It is a topic for another day, but this question is best posed to the IF and the Army rather than me, since I am not part of either. And as I said, I am not in any. I'm not part of officialdom. I'm a private citizen like you. Okay. Next question is we have a question from there. Okay, Depalo Das also likes the nice Tibetan flag patch on the jacket. Yeah, it says Free Tibet. It's not just their Tibetan flag. It actually says Free Tibet as well. So you now know where my sympathies lie. Okay, next question. Offbeat Pictures asks, what were the Kaveri engine issues? What were the Kaveri engine issues? DDR has a short article where I basically delineate what the issues were based on what I had learned. You might want to see it. It says some design issues with the Kaveri engine. That's what it is titled like. You should go to the DDR site and check it out. Okay, and then there's a question of, is GTRE working on a clean sheet design? Why not introduce frameless canopy? For frameless canopy is again a different arena altogether. It's expensive. There are issues. Then it's not so simple to just introduce a frameless canopy. There are issues over there. Again, I'm not a materials expert either or a design engineer, so I will not go further into this. But yes, these questions can also be explored. Now, there's this question of whether GTI is working on clean sheet design. Yes, they keep talking. DRDO keeps talking about a 110 kN engine, which has to be developed via special purpose vehicle. So yes, you will see that. Okay. We have another question. We have a question from Parikshit V. Why does IN not deploy enough Brahmos in its destroyers? INS Vishakhapatnam, whereas plans DDGs are packed with VLSF. No, 16. Look, it deploys on DDGs. Indian Navy DDGs deploys 16 Brahmos. Okay, which have a range of 450 kilometers. So nobody deploys this class of missile in this number. Look at what plan is deploying and look at what the Indian Navy is deploying. And more than the sheer number of missiles on, surface anti-ship missiles on board, what really counts is your C4 ISR, or rather C4 I-star, because you have to do above the horizon targeting. You may have to do cooperative targeting. You have to yourself be in silent mode where maybe some off-board sensor locates the target. There are many issues involved, and you have to look at the nature of the missile also. It's been continuously improved. It's much better than whatever the plan has. Okay, this is one place where India has an advantage. Okay, next question. Master Chief, sir, does Indian MOD have anything similar to the Special Access Program style compartmentalization of the US DoD? This is all classified above top secret. So I'm not going to answer this. Okay, the next question we have is from Harish Patel. How far are we from using thorium? I've also already answered this. We are some distance away, I'm sorry. We do use thorium already, by the way, for what is called flux flattening of the core in our pressurized heavy water reactors and stuff like that. It's basically to flatten out the radiation flux around the core and stuff like that, because thorium, as you know, is fertile and is a major neutron absorber. So stuff like that. Again, let's not go into details. You can read my articles on this. I've written a bunch of articles for Nuclear Engineering International on such issues. I'll share them. Okay. Next question is by Abhishek Khanepure. When AMCF fighter jets come into service? In the 2030s. I think the Air Force and DRDO are both very serious about this program. It'll come into service in the 2030s. Okay, you have another question here from Subhansh Patel. When would we see Indian Army using new armored vehicles like M4 and ALSV? I think you're already seeing these in use. 27 M4s were ordered from Kalyani, and there was a 1,300 crore order for ALSV. So sorry, not a 1,300 ALSVs were ordered from Mahindra. So I think you'll see that in service pretty soon. I think you'll see pictures of it probably. Okay, Vatsal Singh asked, status of the electromagnetic railgun. I would request you to scroll back to the beginning of this program where I answered this question. We have a question for Hari Krishna Das. Sir, AMCA will have electro-optical targeting system like the one F-35. Not exactly like what the F-35 has. Based on my previous discussions with ADA, it will neither be F-35 like DAS, nor will it be a Russian-style IRST. It is something, maybe a hybrid or something. Let ADA reveal this. Okay, next question. Abhishek Khanapura, India can make SSN class submarine itself. Yes, it can actually. But then it'll not be the latest and greatest out there. Let's be clear, but it'll be useful. Okay. We have another question here from Abir Banerjee. PFBR status. PFBR is supposed to be commissioned by October 2022 at the latest, according to the government, as revealed in Parliament. Okay, so let's see if it happens. Right. Next question is we have Lakshmisha KS asking, will Indian-made weapons ever have lobbies in other African LATAM countries to export? You have to make lobbies if you want lobbies. And by lobbies, I don't mean underhand tactics or anything, but you have to present your case properly. So maybe you need something like Rosborono export and stuff like that. It should be done. And people who have given their time to indigenization can help out as well. Next question. Abhishek Khanapure, okay, I'll take another question from him. Can Russia share hypersonic missile technology in Indian Brahmos program? They were supposed to. Brahmos II was supposed to be that. Let's see what happens. Vikas Narwal, what happened to MCIWS rifle or its derivative AAR? Well, it was actually called the NGAR, Next Gen Assault Rifle. There's no update to share here. Work is going on, but you know what the army is ordering. So there's nothing more to add over there. Karthik Udupa asks, will IAF and IN ever convert their Andaman, Nicobar and Lakshadweep bases into full-fledged power projecting bases? They have to. There's not a question of will. They must, and the money should be made available for that. These should be part of our own A2AD architecture, to borrow an American term. Anti-access area denial architecture, You must have anti-ship ballistic missiles. You must have longer-range anti-ship cruise missiles. You must have over-the-horizon radars. You must have satellite earth stations. You'll have to pack in a lot of stuff over there. Okay, next question. We have a question from Frankenstein CS. Okay, Frankenstein CS asks, the Airbus C295 being built by Tata, is it screwdriver technology or is Tata getting any actual technology transfer? Well, Tata tells me that it is not screwdriver at all. They're telling me that they will basically fully indigenize this system in the course of production. Initially, obviously, the indigenous content will be, there'll be a certain amount of indigenous content, but they intend to completely indigenize it. That is what Tata told me, okay? So I'm just relaying that. But I don't think it is in my view, it is not screwdrivering. I think it's it's actually a good project for the private sector to begin with. Rather than try to, build a state-of-the-art fighter jet right from the beginning. Okay, next question is M. Anirudas. Okay, everyone is replying to somebody else. We have Aditya Prakash asking, sir, DRDO claims to have developed a 1500 HP MBT engine, but no pics or videos of the same running. Okay. Having never built an engine before, seems difficult. We can go to MTU level of production the first time. Nobody goes to MTU level in the first attempt, but this is an actual program, which is now out of the stovepipe and into the light, so to speak, to borrow an American sort of term. But it's doing all right in my view, and I think it'll be useful. Both the power pack and the transmission are getting ready. Okay, next question. Siddhartha Bhomik asks, hi Saurav, do hope you're doing well. Thank you. I think I am all right. When are we going to see Desi LDCons or land-based CRAMs? You're going to see that under the Sudarshan CRAM project, or rather CIWS project, Close-in Weapon System project. You're going to see follow-ons to that as well. So this is almost there. The radar technology required for this, India has now. In fact, anyway, we can have another session on radars where we'll discuss, ADTCR, ADFCR, etc., stuff like that. Okay, next question. You have a question from Akash Pathik asking, can we add VLSR SAM to our Kolkata Vizag class to increase the SAM numbers? I think you can. I think one R-class destroyer is actually being used to trial the VLSR SAM according to DRDO. Next question. Okay, we have Vinita asking, can India design and develop a tank? I hope this question is in jest, because we have already designed and developed a tank. We have produced it also, 124 units. We are producing a follow-on structurally improved model as well. So yes, India can. Can India design something like the Armata? Yes, India can, and develop it also. Okay, we have somebody saying Jai Shri Ram. Well, to you as well, obviously. Adisura's privatization of the defense industry is needed. Yes and no. There is no cut and dry answer over here. I'm looking more at a mixed sort of scape over here. Okay, next question we have is, so your take on Tejas EW variant. I think this is a very good idea, and it's going to add to the Tejas's repertoire. Having three. Again, here the whole question of whether one engine is enough to power three jammers or not, right under the wings will come in. But as you can see, it probably can. So that also answers that question. Okay. Satyakiyas, is India an advanced nation? It is a dualistic nation. Some of its sectors are very advanced. Some of them are pretty backward. So that is how I would characterize India. But in many cases, it is advanced. In many cases, it is still quite backward. But you have to put in far more energy into manufacturing if you want to be a truly advanced economy. Okay, next question. We have a question from, okay. I'm just actually, basically I want everybody to be covered, which is why I'm skipping a lot of repeat questions from people who are tuning in. That is why I'm not answering them. I'll try to scroll back to them. But let me see if I've answered everybody who's just asked one to begin with. Okay. Next question on stuff like that. Debri Mukherjee asks, any update on LRMFR? Not at the moment, no. But work is going on, and these are easy propositions now. The bigger question is whether you're going to move on to, adaptive beamforming technology and stuff like that. Whether you're going to be able to mature that or not, and work on that is also going on. Okay. We have a question from Abhi asking, should India buy some retired Japanese diesel electric subs? Are they in good condition and will they be cheaper? Will they be cheaper? Is anything Japanese cheaper per se? I don't know. Okay. Are they in good condition? They may or may not be. Again, that is for whoever goes to. And should India, I don't see how it's going to help India buying, submarines of a lineage that has never had the look-see in India. It's better to buy some used Russian kilos or some used type 212s or even 209s from somewhere, if this is the idea, than that. I think the best idea would be to produce 3 more Scorpions. If you're worried about the leak and all that happened, then you better be, how much difference will it make? You're worried about 6, now you'll be worried about 9. It's not like you're going to have only Scorpions. But I can understand the Navy's concerns in this department. Anyway, TED-BF update, nothing. First flight will happen in 2029. That is the update. Okay, we are now getting into our last set of questions now. There are just too many for me to answer in an hour, that is in Indigenization Appreciation hour. So let me just see the one-off questions first. Okay, Neeraj Gupta is asking, should HAL collaborate with Rosborono Export to sell helos and aircraft to IF and IA? Obviously not. What is the point of Indigenization Appreciation art then? It should, at most, it can collaborate with Rosborono Export to provide spares support to other countries who have Russian systems. That is what it should collaborate with Rosborono Export on. Okay, and also be like an agency here which is getting domestic tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers to provide spares to other countries that have Russian systems. That is what HAL should be doing. Okay, we have a question over here. Do you have a question here by... Okay, I'm just scrolling. Sayan Roy asks, any updates on upgrading IL-76 to IL-76 MD standard? There's no talk on this, but I guess if India wants to keep the IL-76 in service for longer, some upgrade program proposed by the Russians might be considered. Okay. R is up, I'm being told by the in-house studio audience here. And so I'll have to the last question of the session. In the sense, we have Vivan Malhotra asking progress of Alpha S swarm drones. I think HAL has made progress in this department, and let it be for them to reveal what progress they have made. But I think they have made progress. Okay. So, and the final question. Okay, Hiraksin asks, why DRDO using BMP-2 turret in WAP, and can we see WAP-2? The reason why DRDO is using a BMP-2 turret is because it's very cheap. That is the real reason, and everybody knows that. That is the real. It's if you use the BMP-2 turret for the IFV version of the WAP, which is the wheeled armored, prototype, basically the Tata Kestrel, then the cost per unit comes down considerably than if you use a much more, advanced turret like the Kongsberg NSM turret or something like that. Okay, I think we are done for today. There are 1,000 other questions, but I can't answer them all, obviously, in this one session. I thank you for tuning in. Thank you all who've shown their support by way of either becoming new members or by way of contributing in terms of, super stickers at all. And I would enjoin upon the rest of you to do the same if you so wish. If you found our content interesting, please do subscribe. Please do evangelize. Please do spread the word. Please do ask your friends to subscribe. And let's grow our community, grow the community of people who believe about indigenization. All right. Thank you for that. We'll call it a day now. Jai Hind.